we're going back into Epstein land. Time for some Epstein updates. All you MAGAs who thought it was you get Trump in there and it's time to you're gonna get Kash Patel. He's gonna FBI director Dan Bongino. These guys, what a team! They're gonna get to the bottom. It's not to mention Pam Bondi. I mean, you just got these role players that are looking to expose everything. So we'll start with as we're waiting, as we are holding our breath for the actual list to be released by Pam Bondi, as we're holding our breath to have an actual arrest count for people who committed crimes on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein against little children, while we're waiting for the connection being drawn to the intelligence agencies that put Jeffrey Epstein in the position to do all that. While we're waiting for all these things, let's hear where Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are in their investigation as they go on Fox News and tell an update. Let's hear where they're at and everything. Here we go.
Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I know it's hard work.
Wow. So they've seen the file. They don't have. There's no by the way, no follow-up question going on here as far as what about the cameras being turned off? What about so there's a whole list of follow-ups which we're not hearing, but we're just supposed to trust that. These are the people that are going to take us into the finish line of getting justice for all of the people that were hurt and killed and raped and all this stuff. This is what we got. These guys.
Yeah. The best case scenario is criminal negligence happened, like in that case, because you're telling me you guys had the most high profile criminal in the country, like in your jail cell. And if my memory serves me correctly, like they said that there had been some attempt or something like that, like, in the week before or something like that. Like there was already security concerns. So you have the most high profile person in the whole country in your jail cell, and you guys turned off the cameras like in that jail cell. I mean, come on, man. At best it's criminal negligence, but in reality it was a cover-up. It was a conspiracy. We know more than likely he was killed, and there's just too many coincidences. Like if there was a video of him hanging himself, maybe maybe I would believe it. Even then I would question, to be honest with you, if it was AI or not. But yeah, the fact that we don't even have that, I mean, come on, man. But yeah, and this is just another example. If you guys really think that Trump is gonna hold Israel accountable, the first real step to doing that would be to expose the ways that Israel has implanted itself in the American intelligence and political system, because clearly that's one of the ways they're influencing us, right? So if you really wanted to expose that, you would expose Zionist control of the Federal Reserve, you would expose all these different things. But guess what? All of Trump's people are going along with it, but they realize how unpopular Israel is. And that's why you're hearing all this stuff about there's a rift between them. But just look at what he's actually doing.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to take it back to the people supporting MAGA. And, we are seeing the pushback to this. As the reporter said, people don't believe this. And those aren't Democrats sitting around watching this. These are people who voted for Trump are not buying this. That's what she started the interview with. This is so the people who voted for you to be in the position of power you're in right now don't believe this. And so we're seeing pushback from those people. And then the other half who want to listen to everything Trump tells them and take it for face value, will want to listen to everything Pam Bondi says. And of course, whatever Kash or Dan says, they want to believe this for face value. And they're going at each other right now. And I think it's sad. It's sad, Jay, to see that within the MAGA group, they're half of them are being called conspiracy theorists for saying you didn't answer the question. And the others are, there's others that are deflecting. They're like, this is not really the point. The point is that we arrest people. Okay, well, that's not happening either. So nothing is happening, but this is an obvious sign. If you're not going to do follow-up questions about the cameras being turned off and all the stuff that we know are red flags, if you're going to say case closed, then what else are you going to say case closed about? His connection to the Mossad? Are you going to case close that one? Well, obviously that's coming next, but that's what the precedent you're setting by saying there's nothing to see here.
And Dan Bongino in particular, like I remember seeing clips of him before he got that position, definitely saying Epstein did not kill himself. I'm pretty sure Kash Patel probably said it too. I don't remember if he spoke about that in particular, but I'm pretty sure he did. And it's like, for these guys to make such a 180, like just like that is crazy. Like I remember Kash Patel said that he was going to close down the main FBI building and turn it into a museum exposing the crimes of the deep state so people could truly understand the history of what the deep state has done in this country. I haven't heard anything about that like since he got elected. And it's like, you know, the best week. And you know what? Since we picked these stories, I actually nearly messaged you last night because I saw now Trump is now going back to the Clinton body count. So apparently he posted a video about that, right? So yes, the best we can hope for is more empty promises to hold Democrats and the Clintons accountable for their crimes that won't actually be followed up on. But what you won't hear is how Republicans have also contributed like to this situation too. You're not going to hear and you'll only hear empty promises to get to the bottom of what one side is doing. You ignore completely the other side, and then you don't actually take any solid steps to hold that side accountable, because guess what? You know you're not going to be in power forever. You know that side is probably going to get back, and they're going to have to do the same thing to you and pretend to call you out on some of the wrong you're doing without holding you accountable. And that's the dance they play. This is pro wrestling. This is what Trump is great at. Trump was in the WWE. This is Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Triple H right now, man. They will be enemies in the ring and hang out and crack a beer as soon as the show is over.
That's right. You nailed it, man. Listen, I'm glad you brought up the Clinton body count, because as our viewers know, we had a kind of an opportunity. I would say opportunity in quotes, but we were on a short list with, well, it's not even really a short list. It's a long list of independent journalist outlets that were offered an opportunity to submit their channel or their outlet to be allowed into the press secretary room with the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, as they do the press briefings. The whole point, Trump was spinning this idea that we're going to get rid of these mainstream fake news outlets and bring in independent media. And we saw that right away. The independent media they selected, you guys know they didn't select us, but we weren't holding our breath to be selected, but we did submit for it. The people they selected were people that are just elevating Trump and elevating everything. No challenging Israel, no challenging anything. But this is why this is a great story that this question got in by a news outlet. It's called Zero Hedge. I'm going to play that. This is a reporter from Zero Hedge who asks straight up about, and you know you were never going to get anything like this from any mainstream outlet, but just to see that one of the ones that was allowed into this press room asked a real question, not just about the Clinton body count, but about the Epstein ties to Israel, which is what we really need to be talking about. Check this out. This again, Zero Hedge reporter nails it in the press briefing room. Here we go.
Thank you. And my only other question for you is, so over the weekend, President Trump posted Truth Social a video highlighting what most people call the Clinton body count, which is the strange number of suicides that seem to happen in Clinton circles. I have a headline here from the Washington Post that said, Trump peddles false conspiracy theories tying the Clintons to several deaths. So I just wanted to highlight real quick, this wasn't in Trump's video, but this is from the Arkansas Times. and it's the death of Mark Middleton, who was a former Clinton White House aide, who was found dead on a Clinton Foundation property. And I'll just quote from the Arkansas Times. Middleton apparently shot himself in the chest with a shotgun and also hung himself from a tree with an extension cord. So I have no idea how somebody commits suicide that way, but if the Washington Post is here, maybe you can enlighten us as to how that was actually a suicide. So anyways, that's just a lead into my question about the most famous Clinton-related suicide, which is that of Jeffrey Epstein. There's still a lot of questions around that case. You've released phase 1 of the Epstein files. What was missing from that is any connection to his ties to intelligence agencies, and that's really the whole story, that not just trafficking young girls, but doing it on behalf of intelligence agencies, and even potentially as part of a blackmail ring with potential ties to the Israeli government. So for phase 2, when can we expect it? Will it have information pertaining to those aspects of the Epstein case?
I know the Attorney General has committed to releasing those files. I would defer you to the Department of Justice on her timeline, but when she's made a promise in the past, she has kept it, and I'm certain that she will in this case as well. Rachel.
And that, everyone, is how to do journalism. Bravo to Zero Hedge. Bravo. That is how you do it. You piggyback an opening concern, which leads me to my question, and then it gets you a chance to keep going in that same, because you're not going to get a follow-up. That's all you're going to get. So you put it on a record, you put it out there, and if it was an interview that's different, you structure an interview differently. But when you have a chance to just talk, that's how you structure that, and you get the things said on record that needed to be said. Jay, your thoughts on that? This is the first time you saw that response?
Yeah, that was my first time seeing that clip. They really laid that question out perfectly. And I like how they brought up the Mark Middleton thing, because, you saw she started smiling when that happened. So because it made the Clintons look bad. Yeah, let's do that. Let's make the Clintons look bad. And then the topic switched to Israel. Yep. Smile left her face. Smile left her face after that. Let's the most high profile, Clinton quote unquote suicide. So I thought, I couldn't have worded the question any better. So, shout out to Zero Hedge, for really using, that position wisely. And, hopefully more of those independent reporters in that room have the courage to dive down that rabbit hole, because, when you have Jeffrey Epstein meeting with the former prime minister of Israel, when you have him meeting with the head of, Mossad intelligence, and, he's getting all this behind the scenes top secret information about Israel, like in his hands. And this is after he's already been proven to be, like a child predator. The fact that nobody has any questions about it, is really insane. And another, quick point for those who don't know, just Google, American sex offenders Israel, and you'll see that for some reason the Israeli government has become a safe haven for sex offenders in America who happen to be Jewish. They can literally escape justice in America by flying to Israel, and then they can't get deported back to America for that. And to put that in context, if we're allies with a country and someone is wanted and in another country, we'll have extradition agreements where we can get that person back so they can be prosecuted for crimes over here. And we have that with most countries. Like, if I commit murder in America, I can't just run to the UK, and then hide from my crimes. Like, they will extradite me back to America and prosecute me here. Like, there's only a few countries that don't do that, and it's like Cuba, North Korea, and maybe Russia sometimes. So it's like, for them not to send back sex offenders that are wanted in America is a huge problem. So, again, I'm not saying that I know for sure, that like he was directly working for Mossad. There are different types of intelligence agencies in Israel. I don't know if it was Mossad, but I do know that he was deeply tied in to the overall Zionist network. And for there to be no questions about that from Trump, who claims to want to hold him accountable, says it all. So, I mean, if he was serious about stopping the deep state, then he would be talking about the influence of Israel, the influence of secret societies, and we would uncover a little bit more about this special relationship we have with the UK.
Yeah, and that's exactly why it's not happening, because he's not able, whether he wants to or not, he's not able to do it. And
he even talked about joining the Commonwealth. Did you see that? Did you see that headline a few lines back? King Charles invited him to join the British Commonwealth, which essentially means that we would be, we would have to answer to the crown somewhat. And Trump said, yeah, sure, why not? Now, I don't think they ever actually followed through on it, but who knows? You might wake up one day and there's a headline that says America is now part of the Commonwealth. So, and for those who don't know, technically on paper, the King of England can dissolve Canadian Parliament like that because they're part of the Parliament, like, they're part of the Commonwealth. So I doubt they would give that type of power for them to do it in America too. That doesn't really make sense to me, but that if you're a full member of the Commonwealth, it does give the king some insane powers like over your country. So that's something everyone should know. And Trump said, yeah, we should join that when he was asked about that a few weeks ago. So a few months back.
He's easily manipulated. All you got to do is stroke his ego a little bit, give him a gift, give him a plane. Yep. And to remind everybody, on our official Jeffrey Epstein pedophile arrest count, the total number is now 0. We are at 0 for the pedophile arrest counter. In case you guys lost track, we keep the track for you here. You can always check in with us, and we'll have the up-to-date number for you so you won't get confused. And that's what
Hey, Matt, you know how they had the COVID death counter, in the mainstream news stream as, like COVID was really ramping up? You should keep that little Jeffrey Epstein arrest counter, like, in the bottom of the screen in one of the corners over here, man. So
I might
you can make, because the number changes so fast, man. You want to make sure like our viewers are up to date on where it's at.
Yeah, we don't want
as
you to
Trump,
be behind.
Yeah, as Trump dismantles the deep state, we got to keep up with it.